The day you count on for terror is not over. Friday the 13th, Part 2.
Welcome to the best and worst of Friday the 13th, Part 2. So basically from the first movie, your entire cast is dead. Pamela's dead. Jason drowned in the lake. So what are we really even doing here in the second movie, right? And I'm sure Tom Savini wasn't the only person from the original production kind of thinking that. But after the success of the first Friday movie and how much money it made, the slasher craze in the 80s just started to get wild. So many movies inspired by Friday the 13th started to come out. So the Friday the 13th people were essentially like, we got to capitalize on this. We got to come out with a sequel somehow. I don't really care how. Let's just come up with something. You know what I mean? So they did. So the second Friday movie started filming just 4 months after the original movie. And then less than a year after the original movie, the second Friday movie came out, basically. And it picks up 2 months after the events from the first movie. And it's essentially just about watching Jason on this journey to avenge his mother's death, essentially. A pretty simple plot, right? But originally, the plot of the second Friday movie wasn't actually supposed to have Jason in it. That was kind of the early idea. The early ideas were essentially that it was going to be more of like an anthology series. So they would use the Friday the 13th title, and then every year they would come out with a new movie, and it would kind of just be like a Halloween scary event. Each movie would have no ties to the previous movie, and it would just be its own little like scary movie just in itself, just kind of a way to like get teenagers to go to the movie, you know, go see a scary movie like teenagers and a lot of us love to do every year, and then they would just call it a day. It would come out every single year, and you know, they would probably have done pretty well, but that was kind of the original idea there. But another big kind of story going into the second movie was Adrienne King, the final girl from the first movie. So Adrienne King survives the first movie, suddenly has all this like fame and success, and she's like, what is going on here? This is kind of crazy, but also cool at the same time. But sadly, that eventually ended up leading into a terrible stalker situation, which was just, it sounds like just a horrible thing that she went through. And this was before they actually started to take stalkers seriously and stuff. And eventually it actually ended up leading to her stalker having her at gunpoint. But luckily, Adrienne King has since, it seems like she's doing really well now. Things have gotten so much better. And she's just, you know, has a good relationship, a really, really good relationship, it sounds like, with the fans and the people that love her role and love the movie and stuff. But that was a big storyline after the first Friday movie. This movie is also pretty unique because Alice returns in the second movie, essentially, which is unique for a Friday movie. You don't see that all the time. Yeah, it could have happened in other Friday movies, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but Alice does return in this movie. You know, you see a final girl actually coming back. But funny thing was, she didn't get a script. She actually didn't even really know what she was getting herself into. I'm sure she probably knew that her role was going to be small because of the money that was involved with it, I'm assuming. But essentially, they didn't give her a script. She showed up to set, and they were like, yeah, you're going to die this weekend. She's like, okay, sure. Okay, so what lines do I say? And they're like, well, we don't really have any lines. You're just going to go ahead and just improvise everything. So that was kind of funny. But similar to the first Friday movie and like Halloween, we have another time jump in Friday the 13th Part 2. This time it's a little bit shorter, though. It's 5 years in this one. But yeah, 1981. Pretty damn big year for horror, for sure. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the first Friday movie and the big, like I said, slasher craze that started to happen. A lot of movies that I love. But in 81, I mean, let's just run down them. Like, you've got The Burning, just a great summer camp slasher. Check it out if you haven't. Tom Savini went and worked on that one. Halloween 2, of course, one of my favorite horror movies ever made. A lot of it inspired by Friday the 13th, essentially like a bloodier version of the original Halloween in a lot of ways. My Bloody Valentine, Happy Birthday to Me, Final Exam, An American Werewolf in London, The Evil Dead. So yeah, 1981, crazy year for horror movies. Imagine that, like in 81, going to the theater for all these. But yeah, again, Friday 2 did really well. Just had a $1.25 million budget and made $21.7 million. So after that, right away, you pretty much knew the train was going to keep on rolling for this franchise. And this time, though, they left it way more open on purpose for the chances of potential sequel, which obviously they didn't do a very good job of in the first movie. But anyways, everybody. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes, the good stuff. Let's do this. What aged the best in Friday the 13th Part 2? I mean, you could say it's Jeff's sweet-ass black truck. Look at that thing. Those things are worth like $50K nowadays. It's insane. Love that thing, though. Or you could say it's Terry's jorts, or, the Mickey Mouse shirt. If you know, you know. Do I need to say anything more? No, really, though. For me, it's probably the entire campfire scene where Paul tells the counselors the story of Jason. I just think that entire scene ages really well. It sets the tone for the rest of the movie. It's creepy. Yeah, okay, I was just mentioning The Burning a second ago. Go back and watch The Burning. There's like a scene in The Burning that's almost a replica of this. And, maybe somebody leaked a script to one of the other productions or vice versa or whatever. They were, The Burning script was actually created before the Friday the 13th script. But anyways, kind of a funny little thing there that they're almost duplicates. But, another thing that aged pretty damn well was, usually when you stay too late at a bar, you're just pounding beers at a bar way too late, much later than you probably should be out. Typically, bad shit happens. Am I right, guys? Like, usually it's not going to end up too good, right? If you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Coyote Ugly, right? But, what's aged pretty well was Ted staying super late, just pounding beers at the bar. Like, that aged pretty well. It ended up, keeping the guy alive, so that aged pretty well for him. But what's aged the worst in Friday the 13th Part 2? How can you not say it's filming a sex scene with Sandra and then Paramount later finding out that she was like 16 years old? Like, Jesus, come on, guys. Or another thing that didn't age well at all is Ginny at the bar throwing out the hard R word about our boy Jason. Come on, Jenny, that's messed up. That's our guy. Doesn't age too well, right? But, or how about Vicky when she, does the little perfume spray down below? That probably doesn't age too well. That would have definitely have ended up in probably some sort of a yeast infection or something if she survived to the end. But, it doesn't really age that well. But, all right, up next is best location in the movie. For me, it's got to be Jason's shack, because that shack, especially his mom's shrine, is so important in so many ways to the rest of the franchise. But every time I watch that scene, though, I always think to myself, why is there a toilet in there? Like, what is he actually using that toilet? I can't imagine there's any plumbing in there. Why is there a toilet in there? But I love how also there's that little moment there where the cop finds the shrine and they don't show the shrine. I love that. It just kind of glows on his face a little bit. And he's like, whoa, what is this? You just get that reaction, and that's early in the movie. Kind of keeps you also engaged for the rest of the movie because you want to know what is in there. Just seems like some piece of shit little shack, but it sounds like there's something really cool in there. Something unique. So love that. Yeah, it's kind of sad, though. In this economy, Jason's shack is probably about the only thing any of us can afford. So start looking for a shack in the woods, guys. It's a pretty rough economy out there. But yeah, anyways, the Packanack Lodge, though, love that location. Sad that it's not there anymore, but love that location, the lodge. Great location. But worst location in the movie. For me, it's got to be that like tick and poison ivy infested little meadow that they walk through in their Daisy Dukes. That's not a great location. And maybe that's just a PTSD thing for me because I've had poison oak or ivy or whatever we have here on the West Coast, and it was not a good experience at all. It was terrible in every way. But there's really only, I mean, it was like Paul and then one other dude with like gym shorts and then sweats underneath the gym shorts were the only ones with pants on, protecting themselves from that. So good, have fun with that poison ivy and those ticks, you know? Not a good thing, but that's the worst location in the movie for me. But best character in Friday the 13th Part 2. Jason Voorhees. It's got to be Jason for me. We'll talk about Jenny in a second, but I love Jason in this movie. Love the sackhead look of him. It's just, something that he would find in a shack somewhere or, a barn somewhere and just put on to cover up his ugly face so people don't see it. But he's so human in this movie. He looks like a guy who just would be living in the woods, surviving off of whatever he can find. I love that little detail in the movie where he stabs, what's her name? Is it Vicky? Where he stabs her with it's a very Halloween POV shot. But he stabs the girl and you can see his hand. And he's got like the little bruised fingernail on his hand. I just think that little detail, it's probably completely stupid, but for some reason, that little detail about the fingernail has always stuck out to me like, that's perfect. That looks like a dude who's been living in the woods. It's perfect. I just love that. I like just the way he looks. I like the character. I like how he kind of, he gets beaten up a little bit. He's got some vulnerability to him. Jenny knocks him out cold. Jenny kind of holds her own against him. Paul fights him a bit. And he's not like this giant menacing character, even though like the 2009 Jason, love that version. There's so many, I've basically enjoyed every iteration of Jason in this franchise. But yeah, Part 2 Jason, just so good, of course, so good. But of course, Jenny is great too. One of my favorite final girls in the franchise. I actually have a video detailing my ranking of all the final girls in the entire Friday the 13th franchise. If you want to go and check that out, I talk a little bit more in depth about all that stuff. But I think some people also forget that Jenny pisses herself in this movie. Like, I know some people try to say it was the rat peeing, but that was way too big of a puddle for a rat. Come on now. It was Jenny pissing herself. But Jenny's great because she's not out here like using telekinesis powers to overcome Jason. No, she's just kind of outsmarting him, outwitting him, using her toughness against him, fighting back, But an underrated character. I don't want to mention too many good characters, but an underrated character is actually Paul in this movie. I think Paul is an underrated character, Let's give the man some love. He holds his own against Jason a few times. Good character too. But worst character in Friday the 13th Part 2. For me, it's Vicky. She's just too clingy. And I don't mind that she's forward. That doesn't bother me at all or anything like that. That's not what it is. She's just kind of annoying and clingy, and I just don't like her character. Plus, when everything goes down, really, she just kind of freezes up. I know she gets sliced first, but she kind of just freezes up and doesn't even put up a fight. But yeah, it's Vicky. Don't like Vicky's character. She's annoying. Best line. It's when, one that comes to mind is when the cop is talking to Paul after the two other counselors go over to Crystal Lake, or go over to the original camp when they're not supposed to. The cop says, "You're not even going to reprimand them? No punishment? What kind of place is this?" And then Paul says, "Jenny?" "Yes, Paul." No seconds on dessert for Jeff and Sandra tonight." Like that line. He just says like, "Fuck you" to the cop. Great line. But another great line is when Jenny's in Jason's shack and Jenny says, "It's all done, Jason. You've done your job well, and mommy is pleased." I mean, that's a classic, iconic line for sure. Worst line in Friday the 13th Part 2. I go back to when Ted's at the bar. He's pounding down like 8 beers. He's got a little collection of beer bottles going. And the bartender says, "Are you sure you don't want me to clear those?" And Ted says, "No, I'm collecting these." And then she says, "Have it your way, honey. I just don't want the bar to fall down on you." Not a great line. All right. Next is going to be best kill in Friday the 13th Part 2. It's definitely Mark's kill. I mean, you've got the thunder and the lightning and the rain all happening. It's a great vibe for that scene. The music's kind of getting quieter. And then boom, it all happens. And it's like a shocking, crazy moment. And of course, like, I mean, part of the reason why this kill is also so memorable, like, damn, like, you decided to make the bloodiest, most gruesome kill happen to the guy in the wheelchair. Like, holy shit, you know? But you get that great shot of the machete on his face. Of course, he rolls down the steps backwards. Props to the stunt person who did that. Like, I'm sure rolling down the stairs backwards in a wheelchair is not easy. But just a great sequence there. It's a brutal, brutal death. What's kind of funny, too, is if you go back and watch one of the original trailers from the 80s of this movie, they try to hide this kill because they want it to be like one of the biggest surprises of the movie, of course, besides the jump scare at the end. But they show Mark, because in a lot of the trailers, they do this funny thing where they count the kills because they make it all about the kills. Like, hey, you guys are just coming to this movie to see some crazy kills. So they go like, kill number 1, kill number 2, kill number... And then when they get to Mark's kill, it shows Mark, and then it cuts to Jason with the spear. So they kind of do a little sleight of hand there to make you think the spear is going to kill him. So when you go to the movie, you're like, holy shit, it was the machete. Crazy. But yeah, Mark's kill is a great kill. I know a lot of people love that kill, but now I might get some hate for saying this, and I love this movie. I do. I love this movie, but the kills in this movie are like slightly overrated, in my opinion. You know, every time I go back and rewatch it, I'm like, I always thought the kills were just a little bit better. And I know a big part of that, though, is because a lot of them were censored, especially the Jeff and Sandra kill. So a really cool feature that you get on the Scream Factory box set is they have a special feature on the box set, which is right here. And it's Carl Fullerton, the guy who did the effects for the kills in this movie. He has like he shares his personal VHS copy of the movie. So you get to see some deleted scenes. And the Jeff and Sandra kill, the way they originally made that kill and how much work went into that, it was a brutal kill. And it would have been possibly the best kill of the movie if they left it in. It had to get cut though, because it was just gory as hell. It essentially shows... Because, you know, in the movie, you just see like Sandra's face get surprised, and then the spear goes through him, and you see the spear hit the ground, and there's some blood. But they had Jeff do the whole thing where he, you know, the standard effect where he like is leaning over and they have a fake body on top of the bed. They show 2 shots basically of Jason putting the spear through the body. You see it go through the body from 2 different angles, and it's bloody as hell. Practical effects look pretty solid, so sadly that got cut. But if you do have a chance to pick up this box set, check out the special feature there because it's pretty damn cool, and it's also in like the little VHS grainy look, which is awesome. But Jeff also had a great time filming that scene because one of the people on set was like, "How you doing there, buddy?" And Jeff was like, "I'm okay, I'm doing fine." And he's like, "I'll make you feel better," and he goes, "Open your mouth." And Jeff opens his mouth, and the guy just like goes and blows a bunch of cocaine into his face. So Jeff in like the behind the scenes, more stuff you'll see. Actually, it's not in this. It's in the other Crystal Lake documentary. Jeff says from there on, the entire scene was no problem. He was having a great time. So coke on the set. Worst kill of the movie. It's going to be Terry's death. Come on, guys. If you would have killed off the hottest girl in the movie in some sort of like a crazy way, that would have been huge for the movie. People would have loved that. So yeah, Terry's death, worst kill of the movie for me. We don't really get a single clue how she died. I mean, I'm assuming it was with the same machete that killed Scott. I'm assuming, but she just basically screams into the camera, and then it cuts to the dude shredding on the guitar at the casino, basically. So not a great kill. Definitely definitely. And then we see her later in Jason's shrine, and it would have improved it a little bit if you would have seen some sort of a aftermath. But in Jason's shrine later in the movie, she's just laying there. So nothing really happening there. But best moment. It's gotta be when Muffin, the little dog, meets Jason, and then the camera cuts to the hot dog on the grill. Gotta be that moment, right? No, but really, the best moment for me is the entire scene, everything basically after Paul, that entire moment of Paul and Ginny when they get home from the casino bar, back at camp. Just the feel of that scene. Jason's downstairs hiding in the shadows. It's scary. It's intense. Of course, at the very end of the movie, you get the great jump scare. But Jason wrestling Paul, you get that another moment of that vibe of like, this is just a regular crazy guy who's killing all these people. It's just great. There's also that really good steady cam shot where Ginny's jumping out of the window and then she runs towards the car. A lot of you probably know what I'm talking about, but there's just like a single shot. There's something about that shot I just think is great. It makes you feel like, as the audience, you're with Ginny in that moment. I love that shot. Really great shot. And I just love like a good hide and go seek moment or sequence with your final girl and the killer. I love that. It's always intense for me. I always love that. There's also like probably during this entire sequence, a little bit later on, possibly the scariest scene in the entire movie is when Ginny is in Jason's shack, and then you kind of see right over her out of Jason's little window, you see Sackhead Jason like running towards the shack. I don't know, there's just something about that shot. It's a genuinely scary moment in the movie for me. So, but anyways, yeah. Love the jump scare at the end of the movie too. The whole look of Jason with his mask off and that jump scare is probably my favorite look of Jason without a mask in this entire franchise. Arguably. Very good look of Jason. He just looks like a hillbilly dude who's been living in the woods. It's perfect. So good. But, all right. Worst moment. For me, I'm going to say this throughout the franchise in a lot of ways, but it's just the drawn out recap at the beginning of these movies. Like, come on, guys. Cut it down. We get it. We're here to watch part 2, not part 1 again. I don't mind a little recap. People who haven't seen the first movie or people who forget, here you go, a little something to remind you. But it's too drawn out. It's too long. I don't like it. I hate it. So that's the worst moment. I bet in 1981, it was probably pretty effective, but I don't know. I just don't like it. I hate it. So that's the worst moment in the movie for me. But anyways, everybody, thanks for watching the best and worst of Friday the 13th Part 2. If you like content like this, then make sure you subscribe. Check out one of these videos next to me if you want more content from me. But yeah, Friday the 13th Part 2 is one of my favorite movies in the franchise. It's a part of that first 4 movies. The third one is a little different than what I'm about to describe. But the first 4 movies, especially 1, 2, and 4, are very like, they keep the tone of the franchise pretty serious. There's some scary moments. It's like Jason is like darker and meaner in the movies. And I just love them. I think the second movie is amazing. I think the second movie in a lot of ways is underrated. The kills are solid. Like I mentioned, a little overrated in some ways, but great kills for the most part. Very solid. Characters are awesome. One of the best final girls in the franchise. And the Packanack Lodge and just this whole training center for the counselors. Awesome setting. One of the best in the franchise. So yeah, Friday the 13th Part 2. Just a great entry in the franchise, in my opinion. Really enjoy it. But thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to see more of the best and worst of, let me know down below what other movies I should cover. But thanks so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you in the next one.